So imagine for a moment as an educator that you have the ability to take your students to any location at all in the world. You could take them to Antarctica, to the Serengeti, or maybe even a small little island off the west coast of British Columbia called Haida Gwaii. Well, what I'm going to talk about today is a particular tool. It's called Google Arts and Culture that essentially allows you to do that. It's virtual reality. So it opens up the entire world for your classroom. You could take them to any location you happen to teach about or that might fall into your curriculum. Incredible opportunities today, and we're going to learn a little bit more about it.
So let's face it, even though our globe is shrinking, so are educational budgets here in the United States and in different countries. And one way that Google's Arts and Culture program and other virtual reality initiatives actually can help that is by opening up the world and exposing our students to things that they may not necessarily see in their own neighborhoods or even in the short places that they can travel to. Some students are lucky, but equity is important, and being able to bring art and culture and the environment and different locations to every individual student is a way of really ensuring that everybody has a level playing field. So the reality is that when Google partners with different institutions and artists and facilities and travel venues and so around the world, we're making that world even smaller. And the reason that's so important to our students is because we want our students to understand diversity. We want them to understand different cultures. We want them to understand things that they may not necessarily be firsthand exposed to. And the way to do that is to generate their interest by giving them all these opportunities electronically. And that's part of the benefit of this particular program and others like that out there. So what we're doing is we're creating a more civic-minded student by exposing them to all these different opportunities and locations that they may never in their lifetime otherwise see. Okay, so you've made it to the Google Arts and Culture page. You've gotten to the artsandculture.google.com website. That's the URL. And the first thing you're going to see is this portal page. And in the portal page, you're going to see a number of featured events. So today's top picks would be Behind the Scenes at Versailles, the 5 Views of the Egyptian Pyramid, Inside Van Gogh's Bedroom, the Kyoto Costume Institute, or zoom into Frida Kahlo's self-portrait. So that would be something that you could just arbitrarily select from. But then if you wanted to actually go to a specific program or an idea or a location or a museum, for example, you'd scroll down. And for example, here we have the Museum Explorer. So a variety of different areas are featured, the British Museum, some of the ones in Europe. And we could focus on one of these. We could certainly pop on to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and visit that one. So you would open that portal page. You'd get a bit of an entry, just an introduction, and you can go further in. You'll see a display by Monet, and then further down you actually get a chance to visit the actual museum virtually. So you'll get a chance to walk around if you'd like. You can certainly navigate all the different locations. So that's one way of exploring these different museums in a virtual setting. But then you can also conduct expeditions around the world. And this is really absolutely interesting for me because when you click on that, you have a great variety of different things that you can actually take your students on. So how about we go on an expedition? So that would be a brief introduction of how to use this. But let's pick a subject. Science and technology, arts, geography, natural history. In fact, that one is of interest to me. So I will click on that one. And right off the bat, you get a chance to see some expeditions that come out. So why don't we go and see lost creatures, or perhaps explore fossils, or maybe meet the dinosaurs, or talk about extinction. So there's some real good biology and science opportunities here. You can also see a little bit more about creature features, about different animals, polar bears, always exciting. So we can go and visit virtually polar bears in the Arctic ecosystem and learn a little bit about that. So what you do is you click downward and you get a chance to actually explore what the tundra would look like, and you get a lesson there. You can go further into the tundra and actually see some of these bears in their locations and virtually explore their locations, zoom out, zoom in, take different angles and so forth. So that's a lot of opportunity there for studying science as well. And you can see some of the different varieties here. Environmental matters, so if you actually want to talk about climate change, biomass, or endangered species, or ecosystems in general, this has always been one of my favorite as well, the Great Bear Rainforest off the west coast of British Columbia. there by Clem 2, you can explore some of these locations as well. So as you see, there is no shortage of opportunity. There's a lot of pre-programmed opportunities here in different subject areas that you can focus on, but that's just part of what makes this particular website and the Google Arts and Culture experience just so neat. It's a way that you can take your students into these locations while they're still in the classroom. Dig a little bit deeper, drill down on the Google Arts and Culture page and explore some of the other aspects of it. So this is kind of an interesting aspect, the night watch for painting created by Rembrandt back in 1642. If you look at some of the opportunities, like clicking in here, if you expand them, you'll get some real little tidbits of interesting information. And look at that face there. And if you read about it, it says the figure with just one eye visible and wearing a beret may as well be Rembrandt himself. So there might be aspects of different artists hiding themselves in some of the work that they've produced. It's kind of interesting if you look at some of that. But there's a lot more to explore on the Google Arts and Culture page. We talked a little bit about the museums that we could visit and so forth, and also about some of the different locations, different aspects of different countries that you could go and explore as well virtually. And then it just continues on. There's just so much more. There's the opportunity to play different learning games that are based on different grade levels and different interactive experiences for students to learn. Explore a museum from home. Again, we talked about that a little bit. Some of the wonderful places in the world, some of the gallery exhibits, some beautiful opportunities. They're all available for you to visit from your desktop as well. Features on artists, and then different experiences like moving directly into masterpieces, exploring locations throughout the globe, as well as going even further down and learning lessons, going into Roman history perhaps, or talking about different cultures and looking at different artifacts from different times in history, or even into the future. So there are just so many different opportunities here on this Arts and Culture page that you can use with your students to bring them into places that they wouldn't possibly otherwise be able to get to themselves, and help them navigate through some really interactive experiences that are going to build their knowledge, build their curiosity, and just continue to get them excited about the learning process. Here, there's something you can do about looking at the space station itself, and go through nature, talk about individual aspects of history, the civil rights movement. So you can just kind of go through your own mind and see what kind of opportunities exist from this incredibly rich and diverse page. Whoa, slow down, my head is spinning. Hey, do you all remember those Ocular Rift headsets that came out a few years ago? Well, they're still being used, and they still are at the forefront of virtual reality. And the beauty of them is that they're not that expensive, and you can certainly incorporate those into your classroom as well. And students wearing those can actually take one step further into the environment, and it becomes more than simply a 2D computer screen, but they're actually stepping into an environment in a virtual setting where they can move forward, move sideways, and interact in ways that a computer may not yet have reached the capability of doing. And the cool thing about that is that it engages the student to take even a further step in and explore environments like the Florence Cathedral or the Space Needle or even the Matterhorn, as you see in some of these examples. And that adds a new element in gaining their interest and gaining their engagement in actually taking on some of these virtual reality trips. So let's take a look at Google's virtual reality and augmented reality platforms as part of that Google Arts and Culture experience. So come with me over to the arvr.google.com page, and you'll enter the virtual reality setup. If you do a Google search, you can also get to this page. And let's scroll down and take a look at the Earth virtual reality site. So let's go ahead and click on that site. And when we get there, you'll see a very quick snapshot entry page, similar to the screen that I showed on one of my PowerPoint slides. And let's scroll down a little bit further to talk specifically about the 3 different ways that you can use this. So as you'll see, let's start back at the beginning here. There's the walk around feature, which essentially is the ability to put on a pair of Oculus or Oculus Rift or other virtual reality glasses, and you can walk around an environment virtually. So that means you can look up, look down, look around in 360-degree formats and so forth, and you can actually explore the entire environment. Another option is if you have the right items that come with that Ocular Rift product, you can actually fly around the environment. So this is great for things like the Matterhorn or different ecological biomes that you might explore, and you could direct yourself into different areas. Now, the third option is to simply browse through an area. So that would require you to actually use one of these tools that Google does provide with the Oculus Rift, pick a place on the Earth, and then simply go there in a virtual sense. So you would be exploring that area in the same way using around the walk around function as well. So those are some pretty neat ways to immerse yourself into an environment and get a little bit more engaged and interactive with the different things that are photographed and put onto that virtual reality page.
So another way to actually engage your students and getting them involved in creating content, not just simply viewing it, is to use technology like drones.
Ultimately, as a teacher, one of the things that you want to do is transition your student not just simply to consume video and presentations and that sort of thing, but to get them involved in creating content as well. So by giving them technologies that are available, such as drones, such as different video cameras, and the ability to record video, whether it's on the computer or directly in the environment, you can actually help facilitate creating the inspiration for students to be able to actually produce products that they can learn and use in the real world, whether they're giving a presentation or whether they're just simply expressing themselves. So there's a lot of different potential in allowing students to get a chance to use some of these different technologies as well. So it would seem that Google's arts and culture platform, as well as the virtual reality and the augmented reality, is really an evolution of the idea of the simulacrum that started way back in the 90s. But before that, as the Wikipedia entry indicates, it was actually around since the 16th century in a different format altogether. But the idea of virtual reality evolving and the opportunities for you as a teacher to be able to present these different formats and different ideas and approaches towards learning to your student really helps to provide a way for you to get their attention, which is probably one of the biggest challenges that an educator faces in today's society. So you can see the benefit. There's no question. I think most of us can understand how this tool can be used successfully in our classroom to really augment some of the teaching that we are presenting to our students anyway.
So today we learned a little bit about Google Arts and Culture and its virtual reality feature. And it's really an evolution process because the technology is just simply emerging at this point, and it's still getting a lot more complex and enriched, and a lot of other opportunities are arising within the technology. So it's kind of interesting to see where this is going to go because we're really still in the infant stages of virtual reality altogether. But the neat thing is that even at these infant stages, we've got a great opportunity to learn about the technology, bring the technology to our students, and really share part of the evolutionary process with how this is actually developing. So being able to take your students out into the environment, even though they're still working on their computers, is an incredible opportunity. It's something that we should all learn how to tap into and use in our own classrooms. So hopefully you'll find this whole little presentation rewarding and offering some ideas for your future.